Hi guys. So in this video, I'm going to review my trade in Mara. I'm going to go through where I bought this stock, why I bought it, where I sold it, why, what was my position sizing, if there is anything that I could have done better, and what mistakes I made. So let's start with the entry. So Mara is a stock, looking at the weekly chart, that has been in a pretty big downtrend in this bear market. Yeah, it's lost 96% of its value, but it's recently started making big moves. And before I entered it, it was already up 200% from the low. So the reason this went on my in my universe of stocks with a catalyst is because it had a short interest of 45%. Now, what does that mean? It means that 45% of its available shares was shorted. And so if the stock starts to go up, then the people who have shorted the stock go into what's known as a short squeeze, and they have to cover their position very rapidly, sometimes involuntarily. The brokerage itself will not lend them that much money and will just start covering the position, and that leads to a buying frenzy in itself. As one person covers, it goes up, then another person has to cover because it's gone up more, and then so on and so forth, and it spirals out. So my thesis here was that there could be a short squeeze, and even after 2 months, the short interest on the stock was still 40%. So I kept this stock for a pretty long period in my watch list, like 3 months before I actually started trading it. And you can see my buy arrows. Those are exactly the buy points on the date and time that I buy them. So I had tried this stock twice before, but since I was in a defensive trading mode, my portfolio didn't have any traction, and I didn't want to lose money or hold a crypto stock that is so volatile overnight. So as soon as the stock used to move up a little bit, I used to move the stock up to break even, and then get stopped out of break even in the chop. So in these two buys, that is what happened, and I remember that happening and wondering if I'm being a bit too defensive and moving the stock up too quickly, but I don't think it was a mistake in retrospect, because crypto can be extremely volatile, and without a big cushion and without any portfolio traction, I don't think I wanted to take the overnight risk of a gap down. So I think that decision was fine, and in this case, I was just trying to jockey for a position, as Minavini would say, and I think that was the right thing to do, and I handled it well. Now, this is the day when the trade that I took actually worked pretty well and gave me a 40% gain in 5 days. So let's review that. So the reason I bought this stock on this day was it was breaking out of this little handle that the stock had created. Also, the day before, it had some of the lowest volume it's had in months, right? Look at how low the volume was on this day. And it had made a really tight inside day. So this offered a nice clean entry of when the stock took out the previous day's high. And I took the stop as the low of day and took an entry here at this point. In fact, I remember tweeting about it, so let me just review that tweet to see if there was any other reason why I bought it. But I don't think so. So let's see, Mara. I'm pretty sure I typed long Mara. Yes, April 10th. So I went long Mara, and it was a crypto play. And if I remember correctly, Bitcoin was also breaking out on this day. And so Mara was my trade of choice rather than trading Bitcoin itself, because for two reasons. One is the crypto miners have a much higher ADR than the cryptos themselves, and two is that this stock had a really high short interest of 40%. as I just showed you. So that was additional fuel. Right, I also note that here, which is that it had a very high short interest. And then my risk was 12 pips. Then this was simply based on portfolio traction. And if you don't know what this is or how I calculate this, I'm going to post a link to my position sizing video up here in the corner so you can check that out. The R wall on the stock was just 20% higher than it usually is, which is not that high. But since my thesis was to take it on a sector run or a group run, which is the Bitcoin run, I was okay with a non-explosive R wall. My stop loss was the low of day, and that is my rule for most cases. Again, I can post a link to my sell video in case you have no clue what that means or want to know more. And I had planned to take this as a swing trade. Now this makes sense because crypto is super volatile and not something that I want to hold long term, because there's regulations that affect it. And then, if the government bans crypto miners or cryptos or puts taxes on them, they suddenly gap down like 20-30%. So that's not something I want to put myself at risk of. So taking a swing trade, selling into strength, and quickly booking profits was the right move on this. And I applaud myself for doing this. I don't regret this at all. Okay, let's see how I handled it. So the next day, Mara went up 1 hour from yesterday's entry, and I moved the stop loss to break even, and it was a free trade. I do remember that happening. This was my risk. Pretty much by the end of the day, I had a good enough cushion in Mara to be able to hold it overnight, despite it being a crypto and extremely volatile. And then the next day, it had gapped up. You can see this small slight gap here. And as soon in the pre-market itself, in fact, I remember it had gapped up and made more than 1 hour, and I quickly moved my stop up to break even. Because again, I was at defense mode and didn't want to risk too much on this. And then by the end of the day, this stock actually went up to 2R, and I took partial profits there. This is just a classic implementation of my sell rules. Again, check out my sell rules videos if you don't know what that is or if you want to know more. I just move the stop up to break even at 1 hour and then sell some at 2 hour if I'm in a defensive mode, which I was in this case. And after it had gone up for 5 days, I remember selling the entire position. So those were my reasons for selling. And as far as I can say, I followed my rule book to the T. So I would give myself A+ on this trade. This was pretty much a textbook swing trade. I do remember though the next, like 2 days later, when I saw Mara keep going up, and I had sold it somewhere around here, and then it did go up like up to here, which is like another 7% from where I sold it. Hold on, even more. Yeah, 8% from where I sold it. So I was having a bit of FOMO, thinking, oh no, I wish I would have held it, blah, blah, blah. But that's not gonna lead me to be profitable in the long run. And as expected, the next day it gapped down pretty bigly and then came down all the way and is still chopping around in this range. Now it is on my watch list. Even today, it's definitely still a part of my universe. The short interest in this stock is still pretty high. And if crypto starts to run again, I would definitely take a look at Mara. In fact, I've been looking at it all day. And I would take another swing trade in this. But as far as this trade goes, I think this was a 10 on 10. I followed my buy rules. I followed my sell rules. I followed the position sizing rules. And I got a 40% gain in 5 days. So I don't think there's anything I could have done better. But if you guys have any suggestions or anything that I missed out on, definitely let me know. But I hope this helps you as an example of one of my better trades for sure. And a good case in point for how, if you just follow the simple buy sell rules, how swing trades actually work and can give you pretty good money if you just keep repeating the same process over and over again.